This is a GW model GPG-8018G pulse generator. I don't remember where I came about this, how I acquired it. I do know they sell on eBay for about 50 bucks and $15 to $20 shipping. I'm totally unable to find any documentation on this. Nothing at all. GW has a public download page, but they don't support this thing. Or anything, as far as I can tell, that's of this vintage. It's got two knobs, really switches and knobs in combination. Pulse spacing and pulse width. It's got some buttons, run or trigger or gate. Not sure what the difference is. One shot I can understand, that's a pulse activated by a push or maybe a gate. It has a square wave and an invert. It outputs a TTL signal, a sync signal. It accepts a trigger or a gate and has a 50 ohm output, 0 to 10 volts. I'm not sure what this is. Some sort of a logic tester. Comes in a plastic case with a bail. The only thing on the back is the IEC connector. Turn it around here. It says it was made in Taiwan. Serial number 500,000. No user serviceable parts, so they don't want us to go inside. I think we should go in anyway. So they are machine screws. That's a very nice quality. Something fell loose inside. This doesn't sound good. Oh my. Oh, I see what happened. I bet there's spacers in here. There are spacers. It's like the top comes off. So there's no parts on the underside. We have a nice fuse supply, a transformer. Does not appear, yes it is. It can be jumpered for a 110, 220 or 240 volt input. That's nice. It's got something here with a heat sink on it. A couple of 3-terminal regulators. 7805 and 7812. A lot of TTL devices. Texas Instrument. A date code here of, and this is a CMOS. This is an LM3900. This is a 4007 with a date code of 9514. How badly would they be hurt if they told me what these adjustments were for? I actually don't see any other date codes. And everything except these two devices here are TTL. I put this number into Google, and then I proceeded to go down the rat hole. I discovered a schematic, in fact the whole manual, for global specialties. Some places it's a 4001, some places it's a 150-4001. Looking at this schematic and looking at the parts I can discern, because the resolution's not very good, this appears to be this generator. Less, it's upside down, but less this functionality here, which is some sort of a logic tester, and is solely contained on this daughter board. Everything else appears to be part of the Global Specialties generator, including 2 sets of 7 potentiometers and a level calibration potentiometer. These Global Specialties units are $10 to $20 cheaper than this, and there's probably 10 or 15 times as many on eBay. Now, I don't own a Global Specialties, but it functionally appears to be, if we dismiss this function tester board here and these controls right here, it appears to be identical. Right now I've got the power turned on, the run button depressed, everything else is high. Got this turned up to 10 volts, and I've got it set on 10 microseconds and 10 microseconds, with this being the pulse spacing and this being the pulse width. I have these in the adjustable mode. They're calibrated when they're turned the whole way over here, like that, and they can take it from 10 microseconds in this setting to 100 microseconds over here. So this is a 10 to 1 potentiometer. So that way it can overlap from 10 to 100 using this, then from 100 to 1,000 using this, and so on. Looking at the oscilloscope, you'll see a pulse. The pulse width knob varies the width of the pulse. Let's establish where 0 is. I'll turn the pulse height down to nothing. So you see the 0 is at this yellow pointer. So the pulses are going high. They go up to 10.6 volts, which is what the knob says. I can vary the pulse width. I can make it narrow, very narrow. Very, very narrow. Let's zoom in on this pulse width. There it is. The pulse width now is at 100 nanoseconds. Expand it some more. I'll widen the pulse. Look at the whole thing. There are the pulses. You can barely see them. I'll widen them a little bit. So, pulse width, pulse spacing, and there's a button called invert. So right now the pulses are going up from 0. I invert them, they'll be going down from 10 volts or 5 volts. When inverted, the pulses go down. But they don't go below 0. They're just inverted. If I depress the gate, there are no pulses. If I key the gate, so we have a continuous series of pulses until I unkey the gate. If I put it on trigger, I'll put the scope on single, well, we'll look at it live first. You can see it just allows one pulse that appears very briefly. But I'll put a scope on one shot and I'll trigger it. You see it put out one pulse. I can use the gate function to put out a series of pulses for a certain period of time. I can use the trigger to put out one pulse. I have to remove the trigger and reset it to put out a second pulse. The square wave, I have to do run. In which case, both knobs, or both time bases, seem to do the same thing. I'm not sure what that is. Now I have no idea what this area does. And since I have no instruction manual, I'm not even going to guess. So my recommendation is not to buy one of these. If you need a pulse generator less the function here, I would go for one of the global specialties 4001s. I just happen to have this. I thought you might like to take a look at it. Thank you.